Hello and welcome to Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. On today's show, we'll hear about Apple Montessori Schools' history and its 50th anniversary. We'll also talk to the Salvation Army of New Jersey about their educational programs. But first, May is Stroke Awareness Month. 1 in 5 women will have a stroke, but the large majority of strokes can be prevented. Joining us now to talk about stroke awareness and prevention is stroke survivor Stacy Quinn. Stacy, thank you so much for joining the show and telling your story.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
So obviously, like I said, you had a stroke and recovered from it at the very young age of 41.
Correct.
Please share your story with our audience.
Sure. I think this happened to me at the young age of 41. And what happened to me, I would describe it was the worst headache of my life. I was on the train, I was heading into my job in New York City, and my head just started pounding. So, it was around the holidays. I thought, you know what, I'm busy, I'm stressed out. This is just from not getting enough sleep and working too hard. So I ran into Starbucks, grabbed a coffee, and I thought the caffeine's gonna take the edge off of this and all is going to be well. Well, throughout the morning, the headache got worse and worse. And then when I was in my boss's office having a meeting, I started slurring my speech. And for the first time since I was a little girl, I couldn't string together a sentence. And I thought to myself, okay, I paused, my speech went back to normal. And I thought, oh, it's the headache. But then as soon as my speech went back to normal, it happened again. We both just thought it was because of the headache. But I went back to my desk and I thought, this is kind of weird. And I consulted Dr. Google and it came back as a migraine. So I thought I had a migraine until I called my mom and I said, what happened? She's like, you're having a stroke. You have to go to the ER. And I was like, no, she's overreacting, but I'm going to go to urgent care that night. So I went to urgent care and the doctor looked at me and he's like, you're fine. You're just stressed out and have a migraine. Here's a prescription for some medicine. You're going to be fine. A couple days later, the headache wasn't gone. I started getting an earache. I went back to the doctor. They told me I had an ear infection. And then I lived with this headache for about 10 days and I just thought my head was going to explode. I said, I can't do this anymore. I looked up a neurologist. I went there and he looked at me. He's like, I think you're fine, but I'm going to send you for a scan of your brain to make sure everything's okay. So I went the next day. And then with hours of having those tests, I got a call from the doctor and he said, there are people waiting for you in the ER. You need to get to the hospital as soon as possible. You're in danger of having a catastrophic stroke.
Oh, wow. I mean, I guess when you think of stroke, you think boom, it happens. But you walked around with this for almost 2 weeks. What did the doctor say to you? How come that happened in your case?
Yeah, I was a walking time bomb, and even the doctor said I had an angel on my shoulder that I lived and that I'm still here today. And what happened to me was I have something that happens to 3 in 100,000 people for no reason at all. One of my carotid arteries, that is one of the main highways that delivers blood from your heart to your brain. It basically dissected and created a blockage. And at the time I went to the hospital, that artery was blocked by 90%. And at any time I was going to have the catastrophic stroke that could have taken my life. We don't know why it happened. It's spontaneous. I was very fit. I worked out, I ate right. I knew my cholesterol, my blood pressure was perfect. So there really was no reason that this should have happened to me. And I think that's why I ignored the symptoms for so long, because I said, I'm a healthy young woman. Something like that can't happen to me. But as you said, Lisa Marie, 1 in 5 women will have a stroke in their lifetime. And I don't think many people know this. And I didn't until it happened to me.
I didn't know this before talking to you. And we're filming this on a dreary, rainy day here in the Garden State. So, when the weather gets like this, so many of us get headaches and, life is stressful. So how can someone watching tell the difference between a normal headache versus a stroke headache?
I think it's something to keep in mind. Like everyone, before I had that onset of the sudden severe headache, I had headaches. We all get headaches. But this one was a lot different. It was what I would describe the worst headache of my life. So my advice to anyone watching, if you ever have what you describe as the worst headache of your life, call 911 and get to the emergency room as soon as possible to get checked out. And actually, there's a really easy way to remember stroke symptoms, and it's something called FAST. And the F stands for face drooping. If you look at someone, if their face is drooping or their smile is crooked, that is a sign of a stroke. A is for arm weakness. Does someone have trouble lifting their arm? Is it drifting downward? That's a sign of a stroke. And S stands for speech, as we discussed in my story. And if someone is having trouble speaking, ask them to repeat a sentence like the sky is blue. If they can't do it, call 911. And the T in FAST means time. If you have any of these symptoms, it only needs to be one of them. You need to get medical attention as soon as possible. And the best case is to call an ambulance, because the good news, 80% of strokes are treatable. And if you call an ambulance, they have what they need on that ambulance truck to help you immediately. So that's why it's really important not to drive yourself to the hospital, is to call for help.
A lot of strokes are preventable, and you live such a healthy lifestyle. I mean, unfortunately for you, you should have played the lotto maybe that day when it happened to you, because it was a little rare. But for people watching, how can they prevent strokes from happening?
So some ways you can prevent stroke is eating a healthy diet, getting exercise. If you're smoking, you need to stop. And also knowing your cholesterol and your blood pressure numbers is really important, because sometimes those are a warning sign that you could be for a risk at stroke. So making sure that you go to your annual doctor's appointments and getting those numbers checked is really, really important.
I feel like during the whole COVID-19 era of our lives, we heard a lot about stroke and blood clots. Are you finding that with your volunteerism with the American Heart Association, that these cases are on the rise?
I think what I'm seeing a lot of, especially in my support groups and stuff, is strokes tending to be on the rise with younger people. And that's why it's so important to know the symptoms, because I think when I look back, I should have been the CEO of my health and realized there wasn't something right with me, and the doctors should have probably taken the step further to give me the test as soon as possible. But I walked in as a young, healthy woman, and I didn't fit the profile of what people think of stroke. And typically that is an older man. And that is really reversing. And we're seeing it more in young people, and more especially in women. And I think during the pandemic, unfortunately, a lot of people were afraid to go to the ER and get treatment when they had stroke-like symptoms. And unfortunately, that killed a lot of people during the pandemic. So no matter what, even in a pandemic, if you're having a stroke or heart attack symptoms, the ER is the safest place for you to be.
What is your life like today? I know that you spend a lot of your time sharing your story through the American Heart Association. So obviously, this has been life-changing.
It has been life-changing. I'm grateful that I'm here to share my story. And I do that because I don't want people to go through what I did and seek treatment a lot sooner. I wake up every day, and quite honestly, I view it as a gift. And I'm really thankful that through my volunteerism, I met so many amazing stroke and heart survivors who helped me understand that everything would be okay, and that one day I'd be sitting here talking to you about this.
How does the American Heart Association go out there and spread stroke awareness?
Well, one thing that we're doing this month that I'm super excited about is the American Heart Association does something called Cycle Nation. So throughout the month of May, I'm serving as the survivor ambassador for Cycle Nation, and we are racking up miles on our bikes to raise funds for life-saving research, community programs, as well as awareness of stroke. So that's just one of the many programs that the American Heart Association does to raise awareness. So you might see me out there on my bike a lot this month in May.
Hey, bike riding is so much fun. And now that the weather is nice, we gotta get it in when we can, right?
Absolutely.
Well, where can people find out more about you and American Heart Association and their events?
Sure. You can go to the American Heart Association's website. I also have my own website, which is www.mystrokeofhope.com, where I have some information about my story, as well as resources for stroke and carotid artery dissection survivors.
Well, you are such an inspiration. I'm happy to hear that you are in good health. I hope that continues for you for decades and decades to come.
Thank you so much, Lisa Marie, and thank you for all you do to help us raise awareness. We appreciate it.
Apple Montessori Schools is celebrating 50 years of early childhood education across the Garden State. They are continuing their expansion to this day with the opening of a brand new location in Mount Laurel. Kellie Capatasto, Regional Director, is here to share more. Kellie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Can you tell our audience what the difference is between a Montessori school and a traditional school?
The best way to explain it is that we really follow the child and we let the child be an individual. The child will grow and develop at their own pace. It's kind of like an individual training track, but having the opportunity to be exposed in a classroom of children ages 2 through 6, specifically in our preschool rooms. By having that mixed age group, it really gives the child the opportunity to have mentors, role models, leaders, but the children we're not focused so much on their age. We're letting them grow as individuals.
Well, this is good information for me to know because my daughter is a couple years away from that, but I'll be on the school track in no time. How was Apple Montessori Schools originally founded?
Well, Apple Montessori Schools was founded by Rex and Jane Bailey 50 years ago, 1972. They were looking for schools for their own daughters. And Mrs. Bailey was trained Montessorian from Scotland, and she just really wanted the best for her children, just like myself, you know, and other families and parents out there looking for the best for their children. So they didn't like what they saw. They opened their own. We were actually the first Montessori school in the northern New Jersey. And soon to be, on Monday, the first Montessori school in the southern New Jersey, Apple Montessori School in southern New Jersey.
Well, what's interesting about that is I didn't think that there were towns left in New Jersey to open schools in, but here we are. You're coming into Mount Laurel. Tell us about what makes that location so special.
Well, for starters, we renovated the entire building. We will be offering programs for children, infants, toddlers, preschool, as well as kindergarten and summer camp program. This will probably be our first outdoor classroom, complete from start to finish, and absolutely beautiful grounds, you know, with a real aspect on nature and bringing the classroom outside and allowing the children to continue to explore in different areas, from music to art to science, to just really just exploring that nature and bringing it, you know, to them. They'll have beautiful playgrounds, the infants, the toddlers, the preschoolers, as well as a sport court for lots of activity, and a beautiful Olympic-sized swimming pool for swimming lessons during our summer camp.
Wow, I want to attend. Sounds like a lot of fun.
The building is gorgeous.
You mentioned that this is the first Apple Montessori school opening in South Jersey. Do you have plans for further expansion?
We absolutely do. There's such a need for children to have great education. You know, the best foundation between 0 to 6 is key for children to have a real, like a foundation for learning for the future. And we know that children's brains develop so rapidly during that time of their life that the more that we can stimulate them, the better. And in that area, there's really not many Montessori schools. And, you know, coming off of COVID, so many parents are looking for really great programs that we've had such, you know, a demand. Like we're blown away by the amount of families that have been touring and excited. Our team is, you know, just amazing there in the school, and they're so excited. We do open on Monday, so we are, we're celebrating, you know, and I I think that probably within a couple of years, you'll see a second school in that area.
How did COVID impact the schools? Obviously, you couldn't be in person for a very long while, and that's obviously been one of the hot button issues. How, toddlers and preschool age children are kind of behind the curve compared to their older peers.
Honestly, I think that we survived COVID. We became really creative and very flexible, with the parents, with schedules, and offered a virtual learning, which, was an amazing, advantage point to many other schools that really weren't offering anything but maybe a phone call here and there. So during, the pandemic, when we were in lockdown, we offered programming every single day. It was stimulating, it was enriching. We had additional resources for parents coming back on site. Yeah, we had to make some changes, but it didn't really impact the true experience of Apple and just the Montessori approach. We had to make some changes to some of the activities and things that we did, but our children are doing really well.
Why is it called Apple Montessori? Because you made that distinction before. What's the difference?
Well, Apple is basically the company name. Montessori is the philosophy, and every Montessori school will implement the philosophy a little bit different. We kind of consider ourselves more of a modern Montessori in respect to there are many different things that children need to be exposed to, very well-rounded. From it's not just about academics, it's their social, it's their emotional. And that's really the biggest thing right now, really needing that TLC, that guidance, allowing them to be independent. They were home for so long with their parents and, or grandparents or additional, caregivers that were doing everything for them. So allowing them to be independent allows them to be successful. The way we implement the philosophy gives the children structure in the respect that they know what's coming next, because children need continuity and consistency. But it gives them, a beautiful environment where they can explore a variety of different materials, from science to math to art to language to geography.
How long have you been affiliated with Apple Montessori, and why are you so passionate about its philosophy?
So I've been with Apple for 19 years. I have 3 children of my own. And I really got firsthand to watch that beauty happen as a site director and as a mom. So I saw that the benefits for all 3 of my children. Apple and the teachers, they're number one, have really pushed my children to be the best that they can be, and each one of them is different and unique.
Well, Kellie, thank you so much for coming on here and educating our audience, no pun intended, with the amazing philosophy of Apple Montessori Schools. It really touched upon everything I believe in as a parent and as an individual. So, we're very big on independence. So thank you so much, and congratulations on your latest opening.
Thank you. We really appreciate being here.
The Salvation Army is known nationwide for its generosity and kindness for those in need. The Salvation Army New Jersey just received a donation from AT&T to support its Atlantic City after-school program. Jennice Webb, the Divisional Education Director, is joining us now to tell us all about this exciting news. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So please share with our audience the beautiful work that the Salvation Army is doing.
So the Salvation Army, a lot of people know the Salvation Army for the social services that we provide. And they also, I'm sure, know that the little kettles around Christmas time, but we actually provide educational services across the division in New Jersey. And so we have early childhood programs, we have after school programs, and we also serve summer camp.
Most people don't even realize that the Salvation Army has educational programming. Can you share more in depth on what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we serve children. All of our centers are licensed child care centers by the state of New Jersey, and we serve children birth to 13 years old. And so when the children come to us, we want to make sure that we're providing a safe, nurturing, loving environment where they can do their homework, They can get a warm meal. They have access to technology, computers for STEM programming. We're also very focused on serving the family because we know that the family is a great influence in the child's development and learning. So we're not just serving the children, but we serve the family through all the other services that we provide in the Salvation Army.
With many parents going back to work, finding childcare has been difficult, and you're filling that gap. How will this donation through AT&T be used?
Well, for the donation in AT&T, it's really going to be used for children to be able to come to our program at no cost of the family. They don't have to worry about trying to meet that tuition payment. It's affordable childcare. It's high quality childcare. The children can come. They have recreation time, as I mentioned before. They have these different aspects that they may not experience outside of our child care center. And so that it really allows them to be able to reach their full potential in an environment with their peers, and they don't have to worry about, what their next moves are. Our staff is there to help them develop and grow.
What other exciting plans are in the future of the Salvation Army?
So for the education department, I'm excited to announce that we are expanding. We do see a great need as parents go back to work. We see that need for childcare growing all over New Jersey. And so we are excited to announce that we will be expanding our services. We're looking to implement 4 new locations to serve childcare across the state. And we're also expanding our services during the summer. We have a summer camp. We're going to be serving just about 400 kids over 11 summer camps. And we're really looking forward to see that play out.
That is so extraordinary. I'm so happy to hear the great work that you're doing. So I want to circle back to AT&T though. They made a sizable donation. Tell us all about it and how that partnership came to be.
So I'm really excited about just the donors in general. We were able to receive this funding through the relationship that our administrative team had with AT&T in Atlantic City. And one of the greatest needs was really the population that we were serving in Atlantic City did not qualify for the subsidy vouchers. And so what that meant is that parents would have to pay out of pocket for childcare. And so we struggled with that a lot. And it was one of the issues we were facing. And through this partnership, we were able to receive this donation and be able to have the children come to the center at no cost for the parents.
That is so key, especially coming out of the pandemic and a lot of the woes that we're facing together as a nation. That help is so needed. Tell us about your background. How did you become involved in the Salvation Army?
So I've always been working with kids. Kids are my passion. I truly enjoy working with them. And I was at a private center before. I served as a child care director, actually served in many different positions in child care. And in my administrative field, I was really looking for an organization that aligned with my personal beliefs. And I really wanted to serve in a greater capacity, but I still wanted to work with children. And so I started with the Salvation Army. I started as a child care director in one of our locations in Morris County. And a few years later, I was able to step into this role of divisional education director. Now I oversee and I work with multiple programs to really ensure that we are meeting the needs of the child and to ensure that we're creating the best possible learning environment for all our students.
It sounds like you've traveled throughout the Garden State, Morris County, Atlantic City, and everywhere in between with the Salvation Army. Are the needs different in different parts of the state?
So what's really interesting is that sometimes we will see general needs across the board. What I see right now from coming out of the pandemic, from sort of returning to normalcy, is that there's a lot of learning loss that's occurring. And what we're also seeing is that difficulty with social emotional needs, right? With the communication be able to express your feelings, to express your feelings in a healthy way, and to learn how to regulate your emotions. So we are seeing just sort of those general needs across the state. But what's really great about the Salvation Army is that because of the dedication of the staff and the child care directors, we're really able to tailor the needs, tailor our services to the location. So it may look a little bit different from Atlantic City to New Brunswick. So we have some general needs that we're seeing overall, but we are able to tailor our services to fit that particular center.
Where can people find out more about the Salvation Army and how to volunteer? Because I know that you're always looking for volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. So we thank our volunteers. We always have room for our volunteers here at the Salvation Army. We thank you for what they do. If they want to learn more, they can go to easternusa.salvationarmy.org/New Jersey. They can learn more, and they can also donate at that site as well.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about the latest happenings with the Salvation Army.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. We'll see you back here next week.